advisors that we downloaded. I'm using VMware Workstation, and hopefully everybody had a chance to download the actual HANA file, import it into this view, and that's kind of where I'm starting off. Nothing's been done on the system yet. The virtual machine has not been started, but we're just ready to roll. If anybody has any issues here, feel free to ping Tony. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and start and hit play virtual machine. And the reason I want to do this first, some of these steps take 10 or 15 minutes to run through. It's got to set a lot of passwords, and I just want to go ahead and get that running so we don't waste time. And Tony, since it's a small group, if you want to unmute the phone lines, that should be fine. People can just go on mute. That way they can chime in if they want. Your call.
Okay. I can try and do that. I'm also starting my virtual machine. Let me see if I can unmute everybody here. Attendees.
Okay, we just send out an attachment that's in the handouts. You may want to go ahead and open this. The reason is the passwords are really important here. This is probably the most important step, and I've had to go through this a ton of times to get it right. We're going to log in with the default information, and that's what's here in this handout. Once you get to the screen, HXV ADM for admin is our login. And if everybody just wants to put their phone on mute too, that would probably help.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear somebody.
The other thing is, once you're inside the VM, to get back out, you have to hit Control-Alt. It should see that, but
yeah, good point. Control-Alt gets you back out. Okay, so we're going to log in with HXV admin, and the password that's defaulted is the one that I've got in the Word file, HXV, all caps, HANA1. So we'll punch that in, punch it in again, and ask to validate it. And then this is the most important step. You got to define a new password, and it's pretty strict, like 8 characters. You need a number, a letter, uppercase, letter, lowercase, and I've given a sample one that I'm using. It'll actually pick out anything that's a word, so you can just use that sample password if you want and type that in. So I'm going to do 9876, capital ALV, lowercase a. Type that in twice. I'm going to ask for the master password, and what this is going to do is it's going to create a bunch of users as this script runs, and it's going to assign this password to everybody. And I'm going to use the same one for consistency. So I'm going to do 9876 ALVA again. Okay. It's going to ask if you want to do a proxy server, and unless you're in a firewall, you're going to say no. And then say yes when it asks to proceed. Okay, let me know if anybody has issues to this point, but this is, like I said, this is the really long-running kind of 15-minute job or so. I wanted to get that out of the way and get that running. So chime in now if you have any problems. Okay, I'm still hearing somebody typing. I don't know if everybody's on mute.
Just realized I don't have enough physical space to run the virtual. Okay, Marcia is going to be more of a viewer. This is being recorded. I'll post it up on our site give everybody to, I'll give you guys a link after this that you'll be able to view the recording. So Marcia, if you upgrade machine or you have a different top and you go through the prereqs on that, and then you'll be able to watch the recording. All the webinars will be recorded that we do on this accessible day.
Okay. All right, so if there's no issues, I did have a couple slides we'll talk through. And I'll flip back over to that while that's running. Tony, I don't know if you want to mute the phones back. I'm still hearing some noise. I don't know if that's yours or not.
Okay, let me
go ahead and mute it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, so well, I'll try to make this pretty quick and go through the slides, but I did want to touch on a few things. First of all, just going over kind of a brief HANA overview, because I know everybody talks about this, and everybody has an idea of what it is. You always hear it's a database, it's in memory, and more than anything, it's fast. It's supposed to speed everything up, and those are all definitely true. But I think
Hey, Jace, we lost you. Okay, you should be back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know why it muted. Okay, so like I was saying, sorry about that. To me, HANA is definitely more than just a fast database. And I think for me, the best explanation of HANA is it's a single kind of next-gen platform that's going to combine data, analytics, application servers for doing the calculations all into one platform and application. It's been around for a few years, obviously, but HANA 2, this next-gen one, was announced at TechEd last year, so it's been out only a few months. It came out in November of last year, and that's what we're going to be installing today. So there are a few changes with this new version, and it really hits the areas that I listed down below. There's kind of 4 main changes that we're getting in HANA 2. First is application development. And what they're doing here is bringing in a lot of third-party build packs, letting people kind of expand native application development, Java, Ruby, all these other outside tools, starting to bring that in and let people use that to develop directly within HANA.
Hold on for a second. I mean, Jace, people are having a problem with the proxy host. Could you go and Keith is saying he has the same problem. What's the proxy host name? Yeah, can you show that again?
So when I went through it, it's asking for proxy host, and I know there might be some one-offs that we'll have to go through, but unless you're operating within a firewall or any kind of setting, I just hit no for the proxy. So it's going to ask for proxy. I hit no. If you do need to do that, when you download the install files, there's a PDF, and the PDF has some specific information with the proxy server on how to figure that out and configure it. Tony, I don't know if you're on your end when you went through this, if you had any issues with proxy servers or not.
I didn't have any issues with the proxies.
So I think if it's a one-off, maybe we can field that. Is anybody else having an issue there? Because everybody should be seeing, if you can still see my screen, hopefully everybody's getting this login to the XSA services.
Is everybody getting is everybody getting that? I am not, Jonathan. Mine says it's configured Keith Green.
Okay, is anybody getting this screen?
Is anybody getting the screen that you see on there where you see all the services? I am not. It looks like Jonathan's. Should I make Jonathan a presenter so he can show his screen? Would that help, you think, Keith? I mean, Jace?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. I mean, I think there's going to be some one-offs, and if everybody's getting that problem, we could definitely go through it. But yeah, we can do that. We've got some time to kill on this anyway. Like I said, it's going to take probably, for the people that did get this far, it still takes 15, 20 minutes. We've got another 10 minutes or so until it's done. So yeah,
Jonathan,
that works for me.
You make presenter. Okay, Jonathan, I'm going to make you the presenter. Go ahead and show your screen. You see that, Jace? That. It looks.
Yeah, I see that. So it looks like maybe what happened is, early when it asked, did you want to input proxy server information, maybe you hit yes. And, you know, what you could do in this case is, it looks like it killed the install. So you could literally just close this. You could go to the player on the drop-down, hit power, suspend guest, and I would hit yes.
Yes.
And then when you go back and you reopen your VMware, you can delete that instance from the disk and re-import it. And that's going to take, you know, probably 10 minutes to get it back to that point to do the import. But that's what I've been doing. And maybe so you could leave that one there. You can remove it from the disk if you want. But what I've been doing, just to kind of start each iteration from scratch, I'll import a new virtual machine. You can have more than one instance. And so I've done that to actually, you know, have one with the server, one with the apps, maybe have a couple different instances. You can open as many as you want, as many as you have space for on your hard drive. I think each one takes up probably 50 gigs. So it's, you know, it's not a small file, but you can have more than one. So let it open, let it import, and then we can maybe circle back and touch base after this call. I can work with you to get it imported and configured. So just let that run.
Yeah, so
I'll flip back and share my screen.
Yeah, I'm going to make Jace the presenter again.
Is anybody else having issues? Just maybe send a chat.
Yeah, Keith Green said, should he be concerned that his says, congratulations, SAP HANA Express Edition 2.0 is configured?
Did you do the one with applications or just the server only? Because there's two different versions, and one's going to run a lot faster. If it says it's done, I would look at the log, and I'll share my screen and see where you might be seeing this.
Keith said he did server and apps.
Okay, server and apps. Okay. Make sure if you look at the top, look for any information in the log that says the password's invalid. So if you didn't use that password that I had and you used a different one, or if it was a mismatch or something like that, it might kill the process. Because I did that early on when I started trying to work through these. I had a few times where it would run really fast, and then I would go back and look at it and see that it actually failed early on because of the passwords. And that's why I'm saying it's such a critical step, because if you have a password that it is actually invalid, it won't really tell you up front. It'll start to proceed, it'll go through the steps, and then it just kills it probably where you are.
Yeah, he said he used a different
Take a look.
password.
Okay, if there's special characters, like I tried to use a couple of special characters that it didn't accept. Look in the logs and look for something like that. It'll give you a hint to say this character was invalid or something like that. Look for anything up above.
Yes, Keith, Keith Green, are you okay? I'll check and catch up. He said, okay, let's keep going then.
Okay. So I'm still going to let that go. One other thing I want to talk about real quick while it's going is just what is the Express Edition, since that's what we're working with. Because this is definitely HANA 2. So all the things that we were talking about with the new capabilities, some of the built-in analytics on HANA 2 are all here. But there are some things that aren't included in the Express Edition. So what this is that we're installing, it's really a stripped down, kind of reduced footprint version of the Enterprise HANA Edition that's made for personal computers. It's made to run on a laptop. And it's for free, which is great. So, SAP brought this out last year, and then they've upgraded it with the different versions. So we're now on HANA 2. And I think the reason they did this was for a few different topics. They wanted to, number one, kind of foster innovation. So crowdsource the pool, let people get in and try to do all these native application developments that you can do. And then there's some pretty exciting apps that are coming out built on HANA that SAP is bringing out, third-party companies that are building apps. HANA Express allows people to do that for free. You can start to prototype and build apps. I think it's training. It lets people play with the tool, get trained up on it. You can do it for free at your own pace. There's a ton of content that SAP has sponsored and officially put out that we've actually linked on the last slide of this deck. There's HANA Academy. They have a YouTube channel with tutorials and videos. So, if you get stuck on this webinar and get stuck behind, you can refer to this one. There's also some SAP-sponsored ones that you could take a look at. A lot of content's out there with HANA Express. And then I think it just lets companies play with this because you can use it as a production system. It just runs locally, but you can throw up to 32 gigs of data in the database, and it works. So, it lets people prototype it before they invest in HANA. Now, there are a few things that it doesn't have. One of the things that, personally, I was looking forward to is some of the smart data streaming. So you hear about Internet of Things and sensors and connected data sources. HANA 2 is now built with smart streaming. So it picks up all of that information and gets live streams. So you're getting different data coming in. You're not just getting sales orders or POs. You're actually getting live feeds from all these, text data, geospatial data, whatever it might be. It's built to bring that in. So just something to take a look at within HANA that I think is pretty interesting. All right, so let's see where we are. Is anybody, I know we've had a few issues, but is there anybody that's not to this point yet? And it looks like mine.
I can't see. There you
go. Excellent. So mine just finished. So maybe if anybody wants to chime in that is getting through, because I know we've heard one or two that are having issues, but is anybody starting to see the logs getting to this point?
I'm there.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and move forward then. If we're in, if anybody's to this point, the first thing you can do to make sure it actually installed, type in the command HDB info.
Some of those guys are still running.
Okay, I'll hold for just a couple more minutes then. Any questions? Just general questions about HANA or the Express Edition?
Not seeing anybody ask any questions.
Okay. So like I said, at this point, command HDB info. Once you get this far, what you're doing is you're running the command to check all the installed services. The most important one that we care about is HDBI server. It means that we have the server up and running, it's installed. Second thing we want to do is we want to get the IP address for this virtual machine, and this is in that handout Word document. Let's see. You want to do sbin if config. And it's going to generate an IP address for the virtual machine, and you'll see it. So you're looking for the one that's the second line of the readout. And we want to jot that number down. So I'm going to take my Word doc.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tony.
I was going to say that's where you're going to update the host files, right? You're going to use Notepad++ and show them that, or?
We can, but actually it's not needed to do what we're going to do.
Okay.
I figured just to keep it short, we'll just stick with the IP address for now. But this is what you're doing. So like I said, at your own pace, as you get to this point, you want to grab that IP. And again, just to maybe jot it down, it's /sbin /if config. And that's going to give you the IP. Now, once you get that IP, you can take that, plug it into the web link that I put into the Word doc, launch a browser, drop it in, and we're going to confirm whether or not, let's see, had a space. We're going to confirm whether or not it installed successfully, and if you get this screen, you're in business. So this is what you're looking for. With that IP address and that port, we're seeing that the XS engine, the application server engine, is up and running. So that's what we wanted to see. Okay.
Everybody, is there anybody that needs help, or I don't see any questions? Are you getting to that screen? I guess we'll make the assumption that if no one puts in a question, that they're getting to that screen. That's an important part that validates that the HANA engine is running, so that we can actually do other stuff. So. It doesn't look like anybody. I would keep going, yeah.
So the next thing we're going to do is, now that we have HANA up and running, it's configured, and I will say they've done a much better job with HANA 2 for setting all the users and the passwords. this makes it pretty much once the people that are having issues, once you get through that first issue with the passwords and having it connect, I mean, you see how easy it is to just let it run in the background. We're up and we're connected, and now what we're going to do, we're going to branch over to Eclipse, and this is the application where we're going to do the HANA database administration work. So this is more of the front end. Once you get this far, I'll show you at the end of the call how we can start and stop the HANA instance, but pretty much most of your work is now going to be in Eclipse and other front-end tools. You won't really work with the server too much on the back end anymore. So we'll take this. We grabbed our IP address, so we'll need that, so keep that copied somewhere. I just dropped it in my Word document. And what we'll do is we're going to install the add-ins for HANA. And the way you do that is go through Help. Once you're in Eclipse, go to Help, Install New Software. And in the Word document, we've got a link. You can copy that link or just type it in. And this is going to take you to all the available HANA tools for Eclipse add-in. The two that we definitely need to do the work, to do your admin work, it's under the HANA tools. We're going to get the administration, and then we're going to get the database development, these two add-ins. We'll click Next and let it run.
Oh, hang on for a second. I'm getting John Andre just popped in a question, I guess, a little while ago. I didn't see it because it was in the chat section. He's asking, is there any way to install the ABAP stack on the Express Edition? I'm not sure what you're asking there, John. I mean, you can download the ABAP tools that Jason just went past them and you can download the ABAP tools, and then you can connect Eclipse to ECC the way I had done before. Let me unmute you for a second, and then once Jason finishes, you'll have that same Eclipse connected to the HANA instance, and at that point, I think any code that you write using the ABAP tools should be able to access the database. Jace, do you think I'm right about that, or?
Right. I mean, there's all kinds of development tools, and so I went back. You can see all the add-ins for Eclipse. The ones that we're going to install today are more for the database development, the modeling, but there are definitely the tools that are coming in. There's you can see here we have a add-in for UI5, HTML5 development. There's ABAP repositories. There's ABAP development tools right here.
Yeah, if you have all of that imported in, you then can connect the ECC instance on the back end, John, and like I had shown you and whoever else I've shown that day, I forget how to do that. It's really easy. And then once you're connected to the back end ECC, I guess that's a way to be connected to that ECC and that database. But I guess what he's asking is once you connect HANA, we can write ABAP code inside of Eclipse, unconnected to a back-end ECC, right, and access the HANA database.
Right, I believe so. And I realize that everybody's coming from different perspectives. I'm definitely more of a functional and focus more on the analytics and the reporting and the functions that are built in here. But definitely from the developing side, some of you, ABAP guys can take a look at this, look at some of these other add-ins. This is just the foundation. So I know everybody's going to want to take it and go their own direction with it. Definitely, we can talk offline about what it is you're trying to do with it, and I definitely would be glad to help point you in a direction if I don't know the exact answer, I can point you in the right direction to look. So what we're going to do, though, for now, go ahead, Tony.
Let's keep going, and then we can, we can try and talk later. Someone here, like Kumar said, the ABAP stack is admin language, means any ABAP-based systems like ECC, CRM, right? Just his 2 cents, right? So we could connect Eclipse by installing these tools to a back-end ECC system. We've done that before. It's just that then we'd be stuck with the database on that back-end ECC system. I think what we want to do is after we do some modeling, Jace, you're going to do some SQL, right? Some HANA
right.
SQL, with a SQL script to access that database that we're going to load here too after we model it. So as far as ABAP goes, though, I'm not sure how we could connect an ABAP stack to this, right? Because all I know how to do, and like I said, we can all talk again after this. All I know how to do is connect Eclipse to a back-end ECC system. But then that back-end ECC system is going to be connected to Oracle. So I'm not sure how we would connect an ECC system to this. We would be able to use Eclipse to write SQL script and maybe somehow ABAP inside of this Eclipse unconnected to a system that is only connected to the HANA Express edition for the data. So we might be able to do that. I know for sure we're going to write SQL script to do that. So
okay.
Someone's calling me here. Hold on a second. Hey, Tony. Yeah, right. Yeah, I saw that, Bill. Thanks. We're going to have to talk to Nigel after this. Remember, this is being recorded, so I really can't take a call in the middle of all of this right now. So, Nigel, are you having issues like with this where it's not loading or anything? Hey, Jace, could you also, for a second, go over that IP address again and how you use that?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you get as far as having...
You got it.
Okay, perfect.
Send a picture to your cell. Hang on for a second. Let me see what he's... Oh, so so Nigel's getting a Java runtime environment not found. So that means he's got to download and install Java, right, Jace?
Is that with the Eclipse tool?
Yeah.
When you're trying to install Eclipse? Yeah. It'll prompt an error saying you don't have the like you said, the runtime environment file. You can download that from Java.
Yeah, go to java.com. Can we show them that real quick?
Once you get that, you can install Eclipse. Sure.
Just real
yeah,
quick.
Probably the best way to do that is just search for Java JRE. I think the latest is 1.8.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on the Oracle site, Java SE Runtime. And the one that I downloaded to make this work was the 64-bit exe, just the offline executable. So you'll need this to be able to run the Java, or the Eclipse install tool. So if anybody's having issues there, this is where you can solve that. I'll put this in the chat.
Yeah. Hey, Nigel, we can after this too if you're still having problems. Let's keep going so we can get a good recording here, and then yeah, Chris had told me you had called. I did get your email. I was hoping we could catch up on site, but I guess you weren't on site, and I'm not going to be on site for a while. So we can do this over the phone, or I could share, we could do share screens or whatever. So after this, we'll try and get together. So don't, just hang tight, Nigel. I'll get to you after this. Let's just keep going, Jace, so we can keep,
Okay. So we've got our two tools. Hopefully most people are to this point. We're just going to go ahead and install these, and it should just take a second to load those. It'll reboot Eclipse, and then when we get back, so it's going to say it's unverified. That's okay. And then when we get back, it'll restart the software, and we will now have the HANA Studio, like I said, the front-end development tools added into Eclipse. So I'll let it restart.
Yeah, and Jace, could you go over one more time where you type the IP address and the port in to show them the XS engine is running?
Absolutely. So once you have your IP and you've grabbed that from your server, open the Word document that's in the handout guide, and then there is a link, and I had just IP, just the letters IP in here. So what you're going to want to do is replace here right before the port, just put in your IP address, type that in, store it in the Word doc because you're going to need it when we connect in Eclipse. Grab that web address, throw it into a browser, and then what you're looking for is this screen. So if anybody puts in the, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Anatha asked that question. Did that solve it for you? Were you able to get to the XS engine screen? Okay, he says I got that.
Cool. Let's move forward. We should have Eclipse. We're started back up, and we do have, if you see now, you're going to want to go to Window, Perspective, Open Perspective, and then if you don't have it already, just hit Other, and you're looking for the HANA Administration Console. Once you double click on that and open it, it's going to have a whole new perspective that you can open for the HANA Studio. And so this is where we're heading. And like I said, I've been working on several different environments, so I've already got some loaded. When you come in, you should have a blank slate here in the Systems screen. And so here's what we're going to do. We're, once everybody's here, we're going to take our IP address. You can just right-click in that pane, hit Add System. And the host name is going to be the IP address. So let's just grab that. The instance number is 90. That's hard-coded for any HANA 2 instance for Express. So we're going to put 90. The description is whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to give it a name. We go to the next screen. It's going to ask, how do you want to authenticate this? Actually, let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. The one thing we do need to change is instead of single container, we need multiple containers and system database. So this is what our screen should look like. We've got our IP, 90, multiple containers, and system database. Okay, now on this screen, because we are trying to connect with the database, HANA Express has a default super user that it creates called System. So that's going to be the username. And then the password is whatever you defined when you were setting it up, whatever that master database password was that you put in. So I'll put in the password that I used. I'll check it to store the credentials and hit finish. In my case, I had already created it, so let's see. I've been working with too many of these. But once you hit create, you'll now get the connections that'll show up on the left side of the screen. The one you just created will populate, and then it's going to try to connect to the system. Right now, you can see the ones that I already have are all gray, have this gray diamond, which means it can't connect. It's now trying to connect. This should be my connection.
Is that the right IP address? You looked in the properties. I kind of looked away. Yeah.
Yeah, 192.168.
1, 1, 2, 2.
All right, so let me just close this one. And then I'm going to recreate it because I had a duplicate. So we'll walk through this one more time. IP 90. System is our user. Let it connect. There we go. So now that I cleared it out, it's gonna connect. So I just added a new connection. It's trying to connect, and now it went green. So we're connected to our HANA server now. From a navigation standpoint, these are your main folders. Catalog has all of the schemas that are in your HANA database. You can see that a lot is pre-populated when we install Express. Content has any projects that you're working on, so there's just a couple that get preloaded. But if you're, for example, building a view or a report, this is where you would house that. And then we have security and user information down here. So you can see here, like I said, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the analytics that are included, it's all installed. So this AFL, for example, is where they store the planning functions. So we can even look down here and see the functions. Let's see, the procedures. Yeah, here we go. So these are all kinds of embedded planning functions that are built in here. So for predictive analytics, we have seasonal, association analysis. You can build things like Amazon's recommendation engine, where you say customers who bought X also bought Y. So a lot of things you can do in here. These functions are all there for you to use.
And Jace, what's inside of a procedure? Is that SQL script?
So if we maybe look at the definition, maybe we can see it. Yeah, there you go. There's your SQL script. So you can really get lost in all of this, but the reason I show you is because all this is included. It's right out of the box. You can use it for whatever you want. Now, what we're going to do for the demo, though, to go through this and actually do modeling, and go ahead.
Yeah, Jay, sorry. Could we go over that whole perspective thing again? How you got to the from changing the perspective? You have the HANA admin perspective. Can you show them how you did that under the.
To install it, it's help. Install new software. Throw in the link that's in the Word document. And again, the one that we are really concerned with, the two that we're concerned with would be the, show the ones that we already have. We need the application development and, let's see, I'm hiding the ones. But yeah, this is what we need actually. Administration and database development. Now once you've already downloaded those two, to open this view, we're going to say Window, Perspective, Open Perspective, and then if you don't see it yet, you can hit Other. It's just, it loads the most recent ones. So within Other, you're going to get a list of different perspectives for Eclipse. One of the new ones that you just installed is going to be the HANA Administration Console. So just open that. When you open that, you're going to see this, I think it's a Swiss Army knife or something. It's an icon that pops on the left. That's the admin console. So you can always navigate to it just by hitting that icon.
And then you have to connect to the system. You say an author said thank you, but it's important to connect to the actual system after that, an author, so that it'll go from gray to green the way Jason showed you once you connect to the system. Do you need us to go through the connection again? Nope, he's good. All right, let's go.
Okay. So if you're here, we have the green connection. The thing to see here is on the right in parentheses is the user. So this is the actual user ID that we're using. System is a super user. It's really not something you would want to use on a day-to-day basis to do the work. So what actually we can do for this demo is create a new user that we'll use for the modeling. So basically creating a database developer role. To do that, we have security. We drop that folder down. We have users. You can see all the users that are in the system. There's a ton that are pre-delivered. And to create a new one, you just right-click on it and say New User. We'll give it a name. I'm going to call it My User. We'll give it a password. And if you were a security administrator, you would obviously want to keep this forced password change set to yes. Since it's just me, I'm going to say no. That way I can retain the password. And then down here at the bottom, here's where you set up all the roles that your user needs. And you can see, if you open this, there are a ton of roles pre-delivered. For doing simple database modeling, though, there's really only two that you need to flag, and would just be modeling. So you can type in at the search bar and double-click. We're going to add modeling, and we're going to add content admin. Okay, once we've got these two roles, we can save it. My user is then created, and when it refreshes now, under the system user, I can scroll down and see there's the user that we just generated. Now that creates the user, but if I actually want to sign in and work under that ID, we need to create another connection for that user. So the way you do that is you can right-click on the active connection, and you'll see an option that says Add System with Different User. It's going to copy in all of the same server and IP address and connection settings, and then all you need to do is just type in the user ID that you want to use. So we'll do the one I just created. and connect. Okay. Now we have another connection that pops up. It's also green. You can see that it's the same system, the same description. The only difference is that the in parentheses we see the user is my user. So within one console now, we can do system tasks under this ID, and we can do actual database development under this ID. And just keep that in mind. If you do need to grant more roles to the user that you create, so if if you're doing some type of project and you run into access issues, you can always just go back the same way we just did that and edit the roles for your users. You would do that under system. Okay, so Tony, we're at an hour. I can keep going. We can take a break, or if we can set up a follow-on. However you want to do this.
Well, I can keep going. Can everybody keep going? I mean, the idea would. How much more time you think to get through the modeling, or do you think we should wait and do that? What does everybody think? Put stuff in the questions or chats. Let me know what you guys think. Whether you can keep going or you want to stop here. Remember, this is being recorded, so even if we keep going, says Malari.
Okay.
He says keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep going. As long as you're okay, Jason, you got the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to go through this. I know folks, some might be following along, some might be behind. We are recording it, so what I'll do is I'll just try to go through this at a decent pace to not take up too much more time, not get too far over. And what we'll do is we've got our users set up. What we're going to do now is actually create the models. So I'll go through this, and if anybody has questions afterwards, definitely feel free to reach out to me directly, and I can help you catch back up for anything you might have missed or any issues. Okay, so if we want to create a model, what I want to do in this demo is just a simple sales history model. So it'll make sense for a lot of people doing reporting from a functional side, where we just have sales order transactions, and then we have master data. We have customers, and we have products. So to do that, under my system user, I'm going to create a new schema. And so the schema contains all the tables. And like I was showing you, there are some that are pre-delivered. But I'm going to create a schema specific for this area. So this is going to be, hypothetically, our sales and distribution table area where we're going to house all those tables. To do that, and this is what Tony was alluding to earlier, we're going to use SQL. And I put some of the SQL scripts in the Word file as well. So you can just copy and paste these. But we're going to create that schema. And all you do is just do the SQL script, create schema, and give it a name. And then to execute, and real quick, I know I think I already had this open. To open a SQL window, just click on your connected user, and you have a SQL icon. So if I'm going to do this through the system user, just highlight that and then click SQL. It's going to open a prompt, and it's going to tell you, if you hover over it, what connection you have, the connected user you see as system here, and that's where we're going to do our work. So I'll work out of the one that we just opened.
Hey Jace, is it worth taking 2 seconds and explaining the difference between DML and DDL and all of that, or you think SQL's enough at SQL?
You can go into that if you want.
So there's SQL at DML and DDL, right? The data definition language is the DDL SQL that he's using now. The DML would be what you guys are used to when we manipulate the data, like the select stars and updates to the tables, right? So the reason we don't do some of the SQL that you see now in SAP is because SAP automatically generates that kind of SQL behind the scenes. For instance, when you create a transparent table, right, and it has to create it down in Oracle, you don't create the DDL to do that. You just use SAP's front end. And what you're going to see now is some of the stuff that's done in a way that's transparent or abstracted from us as developers usually. So the basis guys may see this, but this is called data definition in SQL. So this actually is going to create tables, he's going to create schemas, and then later we're going to go and do selects against it, and that's what's the DML, the data manipulation piece. Anyway, we have questions about that later, but some of this SQL, the reason I brought this up, Jason, they may have not seen a grant or a create like this before, and that's why I brought it up. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, like I said, the script, in case you need to reference it, is in the Word document, and we'll try to go through this to show you what we're going to do. So we're going to create the schema. You can hit F8, just like an SAP, or you can click this green arrow to execute. And then when you create, you're going to have a log at the bottom that's going to show you the results. So in this case, we ran the create schema script. If I refresh my catalog, you're now going to see STS is there. So it just created that schema. There's nothing in it. You know, we can look at tables and whatnot, and all the folders are going to be empty, but the schema is there. If we try to run this script again, it's going to fail because it says it's a dupe. One already exists. All right, within this schema, we're going to let the user that we just created, my user, actually do all the work. But before we do that, because we created this, if we actually flip over and look at my user, so I'm now comparing two connections, both into the same system, just with different users. You can see that my user, the actual end user, only has a handful of the schemas that are there, and STS is not one of them. So to do that, that's what some of these other scripts are. So I'm going to grab all of these and bring them in. First one is this grant select. So we're going to actually grant access to the schema. And then these subsequent ones are for the access, allowing my user to create and allow him to make changes and create objects within that schema. So we'll run that. Let me do this one by one. Okay, so if we refresh the catalog for my user now, you see STS is there. We're going to allow that user to create within that schema. And then these two statements are going to allow the user to create those analytical views. Let me see. Actually, I think I've pulled the wrong one. I only had half of it, so you can ignore this one. We actually only need this one. So this is going to allow the user to make the analytical views within that STS schema. Okay. So again, all you need to run would be.
Someone had a question, Jace, because of it being, could they have dragged and dropped the STS schema from the system user and dropped it into the my user, or they have to go through, like, yeah, just doing like that? Is that something that you can do with Eclipse?
I don't believe so. So if I take this UIS and drag and drop, you can see it's not letting me do anything. You actually have to run the script that's going to create the schema, run the script that's going to allow the access and select. Because if you're just dragging and dropping, it's not going to define all of the functions you can do with it. Like I was saying, where we need the ability not just to have it, but we need to be able to create and select.
Right.
And those may vary based off users. Some users maybe only can display versus display and create.
You get that, Malari? So in other words, it can't read our minds and know what kind of accesses we want to actually grant, like Jace was saying. He said, thanks. All right, we're good.
Okay, so we've now created the authorizations that my user needs. So what we'll do is we have STS. We're now going to import some data. We're going to create some tables within this schema. And these are in the handout section of the webinar, so you can download those. Tony made a point earlier that these are CSVs. I think he had to upload under a different format.
I had to
so
upload
just make sure when you save those locally, just make sure when you save them locally, you save as CSV, because that's the format that we're going to load. To load data, we're going to just go to File and Import. Now we're doing this through a CSV. It's an easy way to get data in the system. Obviously, in an SAP environment, you're going to have data connected and extracting and doing system replication. But for this exercise, I think it works just fine to load flat files. So we'll do File, Import. It's going to give you a bunch of options on what you want to do. And we have an SAP HANA content folder where we can say data from local file. If you hit next, it's going to ask which one you want to load to. For the authorizations and whatnot, I'm going to load just straight to system user. You should only see 2 on your screen. It'll be the 2 my user and system options. So I'll load to the system. And then we're just going to walk through this prompt. So we're going to load, first of all, we have the fact customer order table. So this is transactions, and it's several. I think it's got maybe 20 or 30,000 lines or so for sales orders, and it's just transactions. So this would represent sales history. It does have a header row, so you can click header exists, and then we're going to tell it where do we want to load this. So we can pick the schema. We just did SPS that we created. And then we'll give it a name. So for this one, we're going to call it fact customer order. Okay, we'll hit next. You'll get a preview. It's going to map everything that's in the file, and it's going to show the source from the flat file to the target table. We get a data preview down at the bottom showing the fields. And then we can also define what our keys are. So I'll give everybody just a second to catch up here in case you had to download the files. But what we're going to want to do is once you get here, we'll select a few keys. I'm going to do order, product ID, customer ID, employee ID, and then order period. Okay, with those keys, we'll hit next. You get a final preview showing what it's going to look like, and hit finish. Now if we come back under my user and we drop down the table folder under SPS, we should see fact customer order table. So we just created a table in HANA, and you can right click on these. You have data definitions, you have data previews, and the data preview is pretty helpful because you can just click on this and we see all the records that we loaded. Of course, we got it restricted to just 200, but we can confirm that we did load data. You can start to do some quick scrubbing of your data too. You have a distinct values tab. So maybe as a sanity check, you could have somebody look at this and say, what are all the distinct values that are getting loaded for quantities, for example. You can see the raw data, you can see an output of this, and you can kind of see the min-max range for the data that you're loading. So make sure everything checks out. Okay. Then we'll just load the other 2 files. So we've loaded our transactional data, but then we need our master data. So we have a file for product or the product information, so materials, and then we've got a file for all of our customer information. So basically material master and customer master extracts. We'll do the same thing, import data from local file. load to the system user. I'll do the product one first. And we're going to go through the same steps. Header row exists. Load to STS. And we're going to call it dim product. We're basically just taking the name of the file, name in the table set. Okay. Our key for this one is going to be product. You get another description showing mapping of product IDs to the descriptions and all the product information, product lines, etc. We'll load this one. And then we'll load through the same method, customers. And we'll call this one dim customer. So we now have our fact tables, we have our dimension tables, and we'll make customer ID the key on this one. Finish. If I refresh this, we should see all three tables now. Okay, so let me know if there's any questions now. If not, we'll move on and we'll actually create the model.
I don't see any questions, so I would say go ahead.
Okay. Now, to do the models, this is just loading the tables, right? So the core tables are under the schema. Content, though, this other folder, so we'll collapse the catalog. Content is where we're actually going to store our projects that we're working on. So any type of development you're doing, you're really going to do it under one of these projects that you define. So we'll create, and the same way we did the users and some of the other ones, you just right-click on the folder, new, we'll create a new development package. And we'll call this one STS views for our, because we're going to make some analytical views on our tables within the STS schema. And I'm doing, again, all this under the My User connection, just showing that the user that we created does have the ability to do this work. They can create and develop within this schema. Okay? For the project that we just created, you can see what you can actually create. We have attribute views, analytic views, calculations. For doing simple data mapping and reporting, we're going to do an analytic view. We're just going to join those tables. So we'll create the analytic view, and we'll name this one orders. And here we go. So now you can see, I'll just reframe my window. We now have a analytic view that we're creating. And we're going to work from the bottom up by first saying what kind of data we want in this analytic view. So we know we loaded those three tables. We'll just go ahead and grab those. So you just click on the data foundation and you hit add objects. And then it kind of works like access. We're going to pull in our fact table. You can search for it. And then we're going to add our two dimension tables. So you can do shift or control and click on both and hit OK, and we'll add both at the same time.
And you just right-clicked on that data foundation, right? And it said add.
If you hover over it, it pops up automatically.
Yeah, so this looks a little like for the guys that are ABAP developers on their, the SQL Squibby, where you can, create reports on the back end. Have you ever seen Squibby, Jason? Quick Viewer?
Yes, yeah. Right.
So this looks like that, right? So
you can rearrange And what we're going to do is we're going to map our dimensions to our fact table. And we're just going to link them by their keys. So our product table, we're going to link product ID. Customer table, we're going to link customer ID. And then also in this screen, we can say what fields do we want to see. We may not need everything, because this is a specific user report. We don't need every field in the table. We can just go through and pick the ones we need. So maybe from the product view, you got to think about what a user might say. They just need the names, the descriptions, anything like that. So we'll take product name. We'll take the category that it's in, the product line that it's in, maybe some information, capacity, screen size.
Are you just clicking on them, or any other key, or is it just clicking?
So I'm clicking. I'm doing control, though, just to select multiple. But yeah, you can do shift. It works just like within Excel. So control and hold control and click, and you can pick multiple. Customer. From this dimension, we're going to get city, country, region, so location information. And then from our fact table, our actual transactions, what we care about would be the quantities, discount, maybe our net sales and quantity ordered, so just those kind of values. So we'll pull all of these in, and after we've got everything selected, you can right-click, add to output. And there you go. We got all of our columns built. You can see the ones that we picked are bolded and have this selection. And what it actually does is the next level up, the star join, we've just built that. So if I click on star join, by building our data foundation, pulling in the table, selecting the fields for the output, we've created our star join. The final level of this, the semantics layer, just shows you the final manipulations you can do on the data. You can do things like change the labels, for example. If instead of seeing product name, you wanted to show it as product, tweak the output. We can hide a field. So instead of having to go back to scratch and recreate your data foundation, maybe they came back and said, we really don't care about the screen size. So you can hide it. The last thing we'll need to do, you can see it pulls in all the fields and shows which ones are numeric. We just need to define which ones are either attributes, meaning the descriptions, and then the actual values, the measures. So each field has to be one of the two. You can do shift, select all of your attributes, hit that flag. So we now see all the types of fields as attributes. And then our values will say mark as measure. For the ones that are measures, we could actually change the way they're aggregated. So you can do sums, counts, things like that. You can select how you want to display it. And at this level, this is also if you wanted to start to add some calculated fields. For example, if you wanted to create a whole new field that adds two together, you could do that here. But for this is all we're going to do. So once you're done, the green check, save and validate. Let's hit that. And you should see at the bottom, we have a log that shows the validation running.
Well, that's running real quick. I did see an input tab. So if they, and we don't have to do this now, but at some point it looks like you can actually create parameters or select type variables so that you can, when you run this, you could filter out based on your selection. Did I see that right there? Or?
Well, I'll show you on the, you can do some kind of ad hoc modeling with this. Maybe I missed what you were talking about, but let's circle back. Let me get this.
Oh,
okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You finish your thing, and I'll ask later.
Okay. All right. After we validated it, if you had any errors, hard stop errors, it would come back, and you could double click on the log and see. So as you're creating your own models, just reference this if there's any issues. If there's only warnings or if there's no issues, then you want to check the save and activate. And what you're going to see is Once we activate this, we get another entry in the log, completed successfully. Let's come back to our schema. Let's refresh this. And we now have an analytic view created for orders. So once we get to this point, we have a model. We've created the tables and the analytic model view to combine all that. Now, obviously, users aren't going to be in here doing, consuming the data within HANA Studio like we are. But you can right-click and say Data Preview, and we can actually start doing some kind of ad hoc analysis where maybe we want to look at sales quantities in a click and drag kind of manner, quantities, and maybe we want to see it by product category and product name. So now we can see here in this the sales data that we pulled in, we got quantities based off of home theater lines, and it breaks down into categories based within that one product line. And we can do that all on an ad hoc basis. We can do different ways to display it all within HANA Studio. This is just the actual object we created, that you could take this and hook it up to Lumira or some other object that would consume the data from the view. So, this is just the starting point. But once we're here, we've actually created a model within HANA. So, Tony, that's pretty much what I had. This is the kind of the logical stopping point.
Yeah, this is a good break point. I mean, I guess you and I can offline think about the next webinar maybe in a week or two. That way, if we need to run around and help people get to this point at the LA, we can do that. I really can't. I can do it over the phone because I'm on baby watch starting now, right? So, but I know you'll be on site, but I can work with people remotely to get to this point. And then you and I, Jace, can talk about what the next step would be in another webinar. But this was excellent. Nice, beautifully explained. Thanks, Malari. Great. Thank you for attending. Is there anybody that have any final questions before I stop the recording and close down the webinar and get it all set up so you guys can look at it again? And then we'll keep working on. Jason and I will. If you have any ideas about what you'd like the next webinar to be, please email Jason or myself. But we're going to try and build off of this. So right now, you guys, if you're at this point, you actually have a HANA system running, okay, in a virtual machine that's a Linux, that's a SUSE Linux machine on your Windows desktop or laptop. It has tables in it loaded with data, sales order type data, both transactional and master data. And you have an analytic, you've modeled and created an analytic view that can be consumed by another tool. Jason mentioned Lumira, Click could consume it. This is the beginning point now where, that view could be accessed from an ABAP connected system. We can set up procedures later. We can talk about how they get called, those ABAP procedures and all of that. So, but this is a great, when can we get the recording? Malari, it should happen instantaneously. You should be emailed a link to it when the webinar closes. Is what it tells me. But I am also going to download it and transform it to something called an MP4 and load it up on an internet web page, and I'll email the group that link as well. So you should get a link that allows you to see it according to Citrix. But in case that doesn't work, I'm going to download the recording when I stop it, turn it into an MP4, throw it up on a nice web page, give everybody the link to that, and you'll be able to review the webinar. Instead of word review, you'll be able to see the webinar again. So thank you, Jason. That was awesome. So one last
call.
No,
thank you. I really appreciate it, and I know we're working a bunch of people in different locations, so absolutely the offer still stands. Ping me. You can email or call me. That info is in the slide deck. Reach out to me if you have any one-off questions, and feel free to stop by in Kingstown too. We could sit down and take a look at some of these things. I'm always open to ideas on where to go with it, so please definitely connect and let me know what your thoughts are.
All right, everybody, I'm going to stop the recording at this point.